Okay.
Unfortunately, the injuries, losing Mo, um, possibly Obo,
Yeah.
Grant.
Yeah, we've taken our fair share of injuries over the last, few weeks, particularly in this last game. Um, it's the NFL. It's a physical game, and you gotta be able to plug guys in and still have good performances, and that's what our goal is going to be. We'll miss those guys, but we have other players that can pick up that slack, and they'll give great opportunities for other guys. It was a challenge in the game, particularly the safety position. We lost Juan in pregame warmup, and then we lose Grant. We were out of a lot of our sub packages where we play extra safeties, and Cam Mitchell came in, played really well for us at the nickel, but he left the game. And then lost Jordan Elliott early in the game, and then lost Mo and lost Obo. Um, Obo came back and played. God bless him. He had one arm. I mean, I didn't even realize it as the game was going on. I watched the film and almost threw up that he was out there. And got, I mean, he's a tough guy, and he actually did his job in this game. But he was out there and felt a tremendous responsibility. And some of those guys are energy guys for us. Obo and Mo in particular, Grant. They're tempo setters for us, and we're going to need to replace that on our defense also.
Ever been part of the coaching staff with this many season-ending injuries?
I don't know. I never really counted them. I mean, it's something that we work through every single week. Um, you know, Early in the year, we were pretty fortunate to be relatively healthy. Been playing without Denzel for almost a month now. Also, hopefully we can get him back soon. Get him back on the field for us. It is what it is. The game doesn't care. Obviously the opponents don't care, but the game is the game is Sunday for 60 minutes, and it doesn't care if you're playing rookies. It doesn't care if you have injuries. It doesn't care if you're at full strength. And that's our focus.
Just knowing what the snap counts have been like for those guys and how you like to rotate the 8 up front, like how do you manage that when you have some of these younger guys that are untested and not wanting to like up Miles or Z's load too much?
Well, some of the discipline from early in the year. We talked about Miles. I can't remember which game it was, but he played a really high number of snaps. It's before his shoulder was injured, but he said you can do that if you have the discipline to pace yourself at times early in the season. So I think we have benefited from that. We've tried to keep some reps off of those guys, and as you get late into December and January football, those guys can click up. But we have a lot of confidence in the guys that that'll get in there and play for us. Isaiah McGuire has played um, and made plays for us when he played, forcing an interception. Siaki hasn't played yet, but I have great confidence that he'll play well. He's really it's really just been um, a numbers game for him. It has nothing to do with his availability and him being ready because he's ready to play. He's ready to contribute, and that's what this game is: get an opportunity and make the most of it. So excited for those guys.
Miles just gonna have to deal the rest of the way with quick releases, chips, double teams, and all those kind of things.
Well, I mean, that's what defensive ends deal with in general anyway. I mean, I feel his frustration because, so much of what we do is just trying to get Miles one-on-one. And when you can get one-on-one, um, and you get held and, doesn't get called, things like that, that can be a frustrating thing for a player. It can be a frustrating thing for a play caller. Um, but that's what those guys deal with. Um, I used to say it about Calvin Johnson. You can move him around, try to get him away from jam. Problem is he's 6'5", 235 pounds, and wears number 81. It's pretty easy to find. And Miles saying, well, you guys know we move Miles around a lot. I would say this, particularly the last drive of that game. I don't know if I've ever seen him rush so well. It didn't translate to a sack until the 2-point play, but man, his win percentage, probably the last two drives was unbelievable. I mean, it was really um, inspiring to watch, and he just kept. You could tell he was mad, and he was, everything else, but he was more determined. Just kept on coming. I was really proud of that. It didn't translate to a sack, but um, I think you know it really showed his determination, and we're going to continue to work to try to get him one on one. You can't get him free, but try to create one on ones. Um, if we can get Denzel back, that'll probably have a lot to do with it because we said before there's some things you can do in man coverage that can free up from some running back chips and things. He saw running back chips, he saw wide receiver chips, he saw tight end chips, and he saw center slot. Um, and he saw the ball coming out quick. I mean, Lawrence has played him his first couple of years when I was in Tennessee. He's really improved player. His command, his decision making, getting rid of the ball. He always had good mobility, but all that. So that was a tough matchup, or it was a tough matchup for rushing the passer. Still managed to get the sacks. I know Miles doesn't count because it's a 2-point play. I still don't get that whole thing, but it is what it is. But I think he'll carry us down the line and find a way to be successful regardless of guys getting held or double teams and everything else.
I think it was posting ran a real quick follow on that.
I honestly didn't see it, but again, I can feel that frustration because as a pass rusher, you relish those one-on-ones and you get one-on-ones. NFL officials are very loath to call holding versus double teams. And I've heard from officials in the past where they say, well, you've devoted a double team to that guy, so um, they sort of, I don't want to say turn a blind eye, but it's just as part of their mechanics, their eyes are supposed to go away from the double team, right? So they're looking other places in double team. I understand those mechanics and everything else, but when you do get one on one and you're a premier guy and you feel like you've been held, I think that's certainly frustrating. Here's the thing that had nothing to do with the end of the game, but during the game he did not let that affect his next rush, right? And that last drive, go back and watch that last drive. Like it was pretty impressive to watch him rush the passer.
Dual threat, Justin Fields. You see they'll do better against Lamar the second time around in that regard. You feel you did rank in that type of quarterback.
Yeah, obviously, a gifted athlete, unbelievable arm, maybe the most arm strength we've seen all year. I mean, just an absolute cannon for an arm, and he can throw those individual routes on the outside part of the field. Um, and he does have strength and speed to be able to run. They're um, they're they're highly ranked as a run offense, but he's dangerous in the passing game. Um, just because of his mobility and be able to find guys, later down the field and stuff like that. We have certain schemes that we run against scrambling quarterbacks, and we've used those at different times over the course of the year. We'll probably break some of those out in this game also. Um, just because his legs present such a challenge to defense. It's not just about getting them covered through the timing pass. It's getting them covered on extended plays, and he's near the top of the league as far as um, time to throw. And it's not necessarily protection; it's time to throw. It's him buying. It's him buying time with his legs. So puts a little bit more on our coverage, and then different ways to rush the passer, maybe with extra guys, maybe second level guys. Um, different pressure packages. All that ties together.
How do you think your young safeties played when they had to get in there against Jacksonville? Does that change anything from your play calling perspective when you have you guys back?
The only thing, excuse me, the only thing that really changed in the game was the packages that we used because like all our three safety packages were, out the window. We used that a lot on third downs. So, that was sort of out. Um, but Ronnie was different than D Bell in that Ronnie knew going into the game he was going to start. And I thought you saw some really good things from Ronnie as far as overlapping in coverage. He made some plays from the half field, made some plays from the middle. He didn't play a perfectly clean game. Like to see him wrap up on the one wildcat play that he came up to make a hit. And I really think he thought he was closer to the goal line than he was. When you're real close to the goal line, it's just all about taking that big shot. You don't have to wrap up because you can stop and you don't. But he had a little bit of space. I'd like to see him wrap there. But I thought he did a really good job executing the defense. He played with a lot of communication. And then, D Bell came in and that was a tough matchup. Evan Ingram is arguably their best receiver. I think their number one receiver as far as attempts and or targets and things like that. Gave up one completion to him, but I'd like to see D Bell finish that game with that interception. And those, when you're in those games, you're up 2 scores and you're willing to exchange yards for time off the clock and things like that. When they do get impatient, and Lawrence was very patient through that drive, but when they do get impatient, try to take that shot, you got to be able to finish that game. And he had a couple. One would have one we had the penalty on, but I thought we saw some good things. D Bell is a very physical player, and and that we'll probably have Harmon up also. He's a veteran player, and we'll get all those guys involved.
How important is having kind of that veteran there? I know Rodney's been around and helped out, but what can Deron add as well?
Yeah, that guy's done a lot in the league. He's played a lot of football. He's seen a lot of things. His eyes are important to us. And then his ability to go in and execute. That'll. I mean, he's fairly new to us, but he was able to pick our system up, and veteran players do. It's just a matter of everything that we do. He's done at some point in his career, just putting in new terminology. And we'll have him ready, and in certain time you'll see him on the field, and we'll have a lot of confidence in him going out, getting the job done. He's a physical player, and like you said, that leadership. We lost guys like Rodney and Grant, and then playing without Juan these last couple of weeks, not having Denzel. There's a lot of leadership that there's it's harder for those younger guys, like Hickman and D Bell that we mentioned. It's a little bit more natural for the guys that have been around, played 10 years, and played in Super Bowls and things like that. Okay, all right, guys.